We are the Gujarat Technological University. Since its inception over a decade ago, GTU has been empowering young and curating minds to realize their true potential. Over 4 lakh inspired students are enrolled with one of the premier academic universities in India. With more than 450 affiliated colleges in its fold operating across 5 zones of the state, GTU, the International Innovative University, your place to move forward.
Hello everyone, welcome back to online lecture series on fluid mechanics and hydraulic machines. We are beginning a new topic today, which is centrifugal pumps. So let's begin. First of all, we will see the classification of pumps. First category is positive displacement pump. It operates on the principle of definite quantity of liquid is discharged or displaced due to the positive displacement of working element. So here positive displacement is important. Subcategories reciprocating pumps, in which we have piston pumps which can be single acting or single or double cylinder with single or double acting. Second is plunger pumps, and third is bucket pump or hand pump. Second category in positive displacement pump is rotary pump, gear pumps, vane or lobe pumps or screw pumps. These are category of rotary pump. Now second major category comes as rotodynamic pumps. It operates on the principle of rise of pressure energy of liquid by dynamic action of liquid, in which first is radial flow pump, which are centrifugal pump. It can be single stage or multi-stage. We are going to study about centrifugal pumps in this lecture. Second category is axial flow pump, and third category is mixed flow pump, which is combination of radial and axial. So this is classification of pumps. Now we will see the main parts of centrifugal pump. Here is the figure for basic figure of centrifugal pump. As you can see in this figure, if we see from the middle, here we are having this rotating element which is having vanes inside it. It is called as impeller. Then here on the outer side of impeller, here we are having a casing which is having gradually increasing area. Then we are having this as a delivery valve, and this is the delivery pipe. Here we are having suction pipe, and at the bottom we are having foot valve and strainer. Strainer is used to prevent any kind of foreign particles entering into the pump. So first component is impeller, which is rotating element of centrifugal pump. Second is casing, an airtight passage surrounding the impeller. Now here, as you can see, we are having gradually increasing area. This is required for conversion of kinetic energy into pressure energy, because at the exit of impeller, pressure energy is low and kinetic energy is very high. That's why we require this diverging area of casing, so that kinetic energy can be converted into pressure energy. Third is suction pipe, that is this, with foot valve and strainer. And last portion is delivery pipe. Few more things here. HS, this HS is called as suction head, HD is called as delivery head, and this capital H is the total head. Apart from this, there will be some losses in the suction pipe because of friction, as well as some losses in delivery pipe because of friction. So that can be written as HFD, HFS. F stands for friction, HFS, and here we can write down HFD. That is not mentioned in this figure. Now the next is velocity vector diagram. So this is the velocity vector diagram for centrifugal pump. During hydraulic turbines also, we have extensively gone through the velocity diagrams of turbines. So here we are having velocity diagram of centrifugal pump, and it is somewhat similar apart from few exceptions. Here we can see that the absolute velocity is entering radially, or the flow angle is 90 degree at the inlet. So VW1, that is the tangential component of absolute velocity, is 0 at the inlet. And here we are having the outlet velocity diagram. The nomenclatures are as it is. U1 is the blade speed, VR1 is the relative velocity, VF1 is the flow velocity, V1 is the absolute velocity at inlet, VW1 is the tangential component of velocity, alpha 1 is the flow angle, and beta 1 is the blade angle, and similarly we can have this nomenclature. Okay. So the next topic is pump loss. Here we will see in detail what exactly losses are happening in pumping action. So first of all, we will begin with electrical motor, from which we are getting the shaft power. So SP stands for shaft power, which is equal to P. Then pump is run by this electric motor, and because of mechanical losses, this shaft power is not fully converted into the rotor power. So there are some mechanical losses, and the difference between shaft power and rotor power are the mechanical losses. So here rotor power is equal to rho Q plus Q into HI, where capital Q is the flow of So here capital Q is the actual or total flow of water, and plus small q is flow of water leakage through the pump, and HI is the ideal heat generated by the pump, and capital H is the actual heat generated by the pump. So here the mechanical efficiency is given by rotor power divided by shaft power. Then there are head losses in the impeller. So as you can see here, HI is the ideal heat generated by the pump, and capital H is the actual heat generated by the pump. So manometric efficiency is given by capital H divided by HI. And then we have leakage losses, which will contribute to the volumetric loss. So it is given by eta V equal to Q, that is real fluid which is flowing, divided by Q plus Q including the leakages. First we will discuss about hydraulic losses, which are contributing to the head losses. First is friction losses in impeller, second is shock or eddy losses at inlet to outlet of impeller, third is friction and eddy loss in the suction and delivery pipes. Second category is mechanical losses, the loss due to the friction between liquid and impeller in the space between impeller and casing. Second is loss due to friction between different parts like bearings, gland packings, etc. Third is leakage losses, loss of energy due to pressure difference between liquid inside the pump and the atmosphere. So these are the losses which are happening inside the pump. Now we will discuss about pump efficiency. First is mechanical efficiency. It is the ratio of rotor power at impeller to the shaft power supplied to the pump. So it is given by rotor power divided by shaft power. Now the rotor power is given by rho into Q plus Q into G into VW2 U2 by G, divided by shaft power is P. This might look complicated equation, but if you recall, rotor power is given by rho G Q into H. P is equal to rho G Q H. So rho is here, as you can see, rho is already here, G is here. Instead of Q we are having capital Q plus small q, and instead of H we are having VW2 U2 by G. And then by adjusting this equation, finally we are getting that mechanical efficiency is given by P minus power losses due to mechanical friction divided by power. Now second is manometric efficiency. It is the ratio of actual heat generated by the pump to the maximum head imparted by impeller to the liquid. Mathematically, eta manometric is manometric head divided by maximum head imparted by impeller, which is given by capital H divided by HI, where HI is work done by the impeller per second per unit weight, and it is given by this formula. So as I was telling you, VW2U2 by G is actually HI, that is the work done by the impeller per second per unit weight, and then we are getting this final equation for manometric efficiency. Next is volumetric efficiency. It is the ratio of actual volume of liquid flowing through impeller to the total volume flowing through the impeller, and it is given by this formula, where eta V is equal to Q upon capital Q plus small q, where Q is the loss of liquid flow rate due to the leakage. Now the overall efficiency is output water power to the power supplied to the pump, and it is given by water power divided by shaft power, that is rho GQ HM by P. Rearranging these terms, then we can obtain this. This is nothing but we have multiplied few quantities and divided few quantities. So I suggest you to pause this video and look at this expression very carefully, and by multiplying and dividing some terms, we can easily obtain this formula. So the first term is manometric efficiency, second term is volumetric efficiency, and last term is mechanical efficiency. So overall efficiency is combination of manometric efficiency, volumetric efficiency, and mechanical efficiency. Now the next theory is net positive suction head. It is defined as the absolute pressure head at inlet of the pump minus vapor pressure head plus velocity head. So this is the value of NPSH, which is P1 by rho g, that is the first term, pressure head at the inlet to the pump, minus vapor pressure head, that is the second term, PV upon rho g, plus velocity head, which is given by Vs square by 2g. Now instead of P1 upon rho g, we can write down this equation, that is P1 minus rho g is equal to PA minus rho g minus into the bracket Vs square by 2g, that is this velocity at suction. Hs is the suction head and HFS is the loss due to loss of head at the suction pipe, minus these two terms are as it is. So by eliminating few terms, we can finally get PA upon rho g minus PV upon rho g minus Hs minus HFS, and then NPSH can be written as this term is atmospheric head HA, PV minus rho g is vapor head minus Hs minus HFS. So this is net positive suction head. Now the next theory is pressure rise in the impeller. So we will again revisit our velocity diagram, applying energy equation at point 1, that is here and here, applying energy equation at point 1 and point 2 of impeller. So energy at input plus work input that we are providing is equal to work output. So it is given by this formula. This is nothing but Bernoulli's equation. Then we have eliminated Z1 and Z2, assuming Z1 is equal to Z2. Then finally we will get P2 minus P1 by rho g is equal to 1 by 2g V1 square minus V2 square plus 2 VW2 U2. Now from the outlet velocity triangle, here if you see tan beta 2, that is this, that will be VF2, that is this side, divided by this side. This side is U2 minus VW2, and rearranging we can make a VW2 as a subject, which will be VU2 minus VF2 cot beta 2. Now based on this velocity triangle, you should obtain the value of V2 square. I suggest you to try this by yourself. Through the velocity triangles, you will be able to obtain this equation of V2 square. Then finally, putting the value of V2 square in this equation and putting the value of VW2, that is from here, in this equation, and we will be assuming V1 is equal to Vf1. So finally we will be getting pressure rise in impeller by this formula. To repeat, first we have done, we have applied Bernoulli's equation, we have obtained the value of P2 minus P1 by rho g. Then from the outlet velocity triangle, we obtained the value of VW2 and V2 square. Then we substituted the value of V2 square and VW2 in our main equation so that we can get the final equation of pressure rise in the impeller. So this was pressure rise in the impeller. I suggest you to spend some time in deriving these formulas. Now the next is characteristic curves of centrifugal pumps. First is main characteristic curve, which is given by this figure. Here on horizontal axis we are having speed, and on the vertical axis we are having power, head and discharge. So first we will focus on Q versus speed curve. So while obtaining this curve, we have kept HM as constant, that is head is kept constant to obtain flow versus speed relationship. Here Q is proportional to N. Okay, so we are getting a linear relationship between Q and N. Now the next is the variation of head with respect to the speed. While obtaining variation of head with respect to speed, we are going to keep the flow rate as a constant. So flow rate is kept constant while obtaining H versus N diagram, and from this figure we can see that H is proportional to square of speed. That's why we are getting this kind of diagram. Now the last one is power versus speed curve. So while obtaining power versus speed curve, we have kept Q and H as constant. So while keeping Q and H as a constant, we can observe that power is proportional to the cube of speed. So P is proportional to the N cube. So this is about main characteristic curve. Now the second is operating characteristic curve, which is given by this figure. Now here on horizontal axis we are having discharge, and on vertical axis we are having efficiency, power and head. Throughout this figure we have kept speed as a constant. So as you can see here, first head, then as Q increases, there is initially it remains almost constant, and then head decreases with increase in discharge. Then if we see the efficiency, as Q increases, efficiency increases, it reaches the maximum value at some particular discharge and the efficiency start decreasing. Then the next is input power. So as Q increases, input power increases. Then the last is output power. So as discharge increases, output power increases, it reaches maximum value and then starts decreasing. So while getting all these curves, we have kept speed as a constant in operating characteristic curve. Now the next is constant efficiency curve. Here to obtain constant efficiency curve, we are using two graphs. First is efficiency versus discharge and second is head versus discharge. So we have already done one constant efficiency curve in case of hydraulic turbines. So the same method is followed here to obtain the constant efficiency curve for centrifugal pump. So we have two diagrams and we will be drawing a constant efficiency line, and we will be having points ABCD at different speeds, and we are obtaining the same ABCD points on the head versus Q curve. Then again we can take another speed and we can obtain another 4 points. Similarly we will be obtaining all the constant efficiency curves like this. As we have already done this in hydraulic turbines, we will not be spending much time again in detailed discussion of how we have obtained this curve. Now the next is priming of pump. It is defined as the operation in which the suction pipe, casing of pump and portion of delivery pipe up to the delivery valve is completely filled up from the outside source with the liquid to be raised by the pump before starting the pump. Thus the air from this parts of pump is removed and these parts are filled with the liquid to be pumped. So what happens exactly that if the pump is being idle for a so long time, then air will be trapped inside and it will prevent the starting of pump. So for that purpose, what we are doing, that we are adding a fluid or a liquid which is going to be used, which is going to be pumped initially by some other means, maybe manually or by some device, so that air can be replaced by the liquid which is going to be pumped. So this is the end of centrifugal pump. I hope you have enjoyed learning this chapter. Thank you.